I have a bio daughter, Claire, 23, and a stepdaughter, Melanie, 28. I married my husband when Melanie was 16. We've always been civil to each other. Claire and Melanie weren't close, and Melanie used to have occasional conflicts with Claire in the past. Their relationship is better now that they're adults and no longer live together. Claire is 12 weeks pregnant. She called to vent to me about her problems with her boyfriend and asked if she could come spend a few days with me because she felt overwhelmed. I welcomed her, cooked her favorite meals, and planned on doing some work around the garden to fill our time. Melanie comes over to visit her dad with her kids once a week. She was visiting when Claire was staying with us. I was out. Claire had just finished making lemonade and was heading upstairs when Melanie told her to make her and her kids something to eat. Claire apologized and said she was studying. Melanie insisted, saying since Claire lives at the house, then she should serve the guests. Claire replied that she's just a visitor for a few days. Melanie initiated an argument telling Claire she should leave since she doesn't live there and refused to serve the guests then. It escalated to the point where they yelled at each other, and Melanie threw Claire's clothes on the front porch, calling her pathetic and telling her to get out of her dad's house. I got a call from Claire crying about what Melanie did. I came home, confronted Melanie, then told her it's my house, and she was a guest in it, so she had no right to tell anyone to leave, much less my daughter, who needs my utmost support. Besides, Claire wasn't a resident, so she'd no obligation to serve any guests. I told Melanie she should have called before visiting, and she again said it's her dad's house. No, I owned this house long before I married her dad. I told her she's banned from my house until she's ready to apologize to her stepsister for this. To which she replied, "You wish," then left saying this wasn't over, and her dad will put me and my daughter in our place. My husband wasn't happy about my confrontation with Melanie and said Claire should have made her nephew something to eat since she was in the kitchen anyway. Called it passive-aggressive attitude towards Melanie, but I stated Claire isn't obligated to serve guests. Not her house, not her guests, so it's unfair to expect her to. Besides, she's pregnant and feeling stressed, and this is supposed to be where she gets rest, her mother's house. He said I have to let Melanie come over and expect no apology knowing what she did. Not the a-hole, but the real problem seems to be your husband. He needs to have your back, not side with Melanie when she's being a total jerk. Not the a-hole, and you have a major dear husband problem. If it is your house, I would not allow your stepdaughter back in the house until she provides sincere apologies to both you and your daughter. After her telling you that she would have her dad put you and your daughter in your place, that is a hill I would die on. I would send her a text telling her that until she grows up, acts like an adult, and respects you and your home, she is not welcome. Should she attempt to come onto your property, you will have the police remove her for trespassing. If your dear husband has a problem with that, he can go live with his daughter. Not the a-hole. At 28, Melanie sounds like a spoiled brat, and that's pretty sad. If you expect anyone but yourself or spouse to make food or care for your kids, then you likely aren't fit to be having kids in the first place. It's one thing to ask someone politely if they can do a favor for you, like maybe some food for your kids. But it's completely different to throw a tantrum that someone doesn't bow down to your ridiculous commands. Sounds best you and your husband sit down and figure this all out, and once you both can be on the same page, call both of the girls over, sit down, and have a discussion about it. I'm 43 male. I have 2 biological kids, 17 male and 13 female, and 2 stepkids, 26 female and 16 male. I share custody of my bio kids with my ex-wife. My stepdaughter has her own place, and my stepson lives with me and my wife. Their bio dad hasn't been involved for almost 15 years now. When I married my wife, her daughter just turned 16, and my wife didn't have a job at the time. So I offered to buy her, my stepdaughter, her first car. Originally my wife was going to, but she had just lost her job and we were just starting to share finances. I told her I'll give her $5,000 to buy the car, and if she got a cheaper car, the rest can go towards the gas for the first few weeks or months. I did the same thing for my son when he turned 16, but he wants a more expensive car, so he hasn't bought one yet. He is still saving up. My stepson turned 16 last week, and I gave him the same money for a car, $5,000. He chose a cheaper car, and we'll also fix it up a bit together, so he already has a car now. My ex called me yesterday and she was furious, saying that if I have $5,000 for my stepson's car, I also have a couple extra thousand towards our son's car. I told her yes, I do, but this is not about the money. It's about the kids having a car and also learning financial responsibility. She was pissed. My son texted me this morning, saying he is disappointed that I won't give him a bit more money towards his new car. I told him in the year since I gave him the $5,000, he could have either bought a cheap car, and I offered to help him fix it up, or get a part-time job and earn some extra money. He called me an unfair jerk. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You've given each child the same amount toward a car at 16. Your ex-wife can chip in if she wants. 5K doesn't go as far as it used to, but ignoring inflation, your position seems fair and respectful. Your son wants a nicer car than your stepson. You say, okay, here's 5K. Guess you'll have to save the rest. This is coincidentally how the world works. I think there's no a-holes here, except your ex. Your son can be excused from pushing you after his mom freaked out at you. But your position is reasonable. Your children's different car preferences are reasonable. And you respect them and let them make their own choices, not the a-hole. You gave all children 5K toward a car. The other kids chose a cheaper car. Nothing wrong with that. Your son chose to save for a more expensive car. Nothing wrong with that. What is wrong is the expectation that your son should get more money for no other reason than he wants more money. What? I would genuinely sit your son down and ask him why he feels he is entitled to better treatment than his siblings. Not the a-hole. If mom is so offended, she can pony up. I'm a 42 female. I have 3 kids, 18, 15, and 13. I share with my husband, 46. My husband and I have been together for 20 years and married for 16. He has a daughter from a previous relationship, 22. We each have our own personal accounts, but we do share a joint account. Our household rules for our teenagers wanting to obtain a vehicle is that they have to have a job or be in school. We've just obtained our oldest a vehicle. My stepdaughter, Allison, came to us after finding out our oldest now has a vehicle. She goes on about how it's hard to get around. I simply ignore her pleas, and I have my reasons. My husband and Allison's mother have her spoiled, which has made my relationship strained with her. Obviously, she's been talking to my husband about wanting a car, but he hadn't mentioned any of it to me because he knew what my response would be. Yet that night, he mentions to me that it wouldn't hurt if we bought her a car. I tell him no, and my answer is final. Allison doesn't work, nor does she go to school. She dropped out of college for first year. College is not for everyone. I understand that. Her last car was wrecked due to her racing a friend. They were lucky to have walked away with minor injuries, but we were still stuck with paying for damages to the house she ran into. My husband has been paying her rent and utilities faithfully for the last year and a half. It was supposed to be only for 6 months because she lost her job during virus, but she hasn't taken the initiative to seek employment. She's wrecked 3 vehicles since the age of 16, 2 of which we contributed to buying. I've pointed out to my husband that this is setting a bad example for our other children, simply because there's no repercussions for her actions. My husband funds her lifestyle down to the clothes she wears. He's retiring this year and will be on a fixed income, which means he will no longer be able to pay her bills. He can't afford to just to go buy her a vehicle now due to his extra expenses on her. Neither he nor Allison's mother can afford to buy her another vehicle. When it comes to helping raise her, he nor Allison's mother really want my input. But when it's something she needs financially, they're open to everything I have to say as long as it's yes. He says I'm being unfair, that she's my responsibility just as much. And I told him that's only when it comes to money-wise. That because I'm financially well off and can afford it, it shouldn't be a problem. As I told him, I work for our kids and our household, something he should also be concerned with instead of enabling a grown woman. We haven't talked in days, and I'm thinking maybe I should hear him out because maybe I was harsh in my delivery. Edit. I failed to mention that the cars she gave her father as an option were a Corvette or Range Rover. Not the a-hole at all, and I would absolutely refuse to contribute. This is about a pattern of them not being responsible, and nothing to do with you being the step-parent or being mean. It sounds like there are some deeper issues here with your spouse that need to be addressed, though. Hard not the a-hole, a Range Rover. I wish I would tell my parents that's the type of car I want them to buy me. She's wrecked 3 cars, doesn't have a job, isn't in school, and her dad pays for her rent. I wouldn't touch this with a 10-foot pole. Not the a-hole, for all the reasons you listed. And the cars she wants are ridiculous. I hope you have a plan for when your husband retires and can't pay for a stepdaughter at all, or you're going to have a major conflict on your hands. Last year, my aunt died, and she left me her 3-bedroom house in a nice area. I could easily rent it for $3,000 a month, or sell it for $1 million. I'm being bombarded with offers. However, the place needs a lot of repairs, and after paying taxes, I don't have the money to do it and haven't decided to rent or sell. My oldest son, Franklin, is 23 and just finished college. He works for an engineering company. Basically, I said he could live there as long as he pays the bills, taxes, utilities, etc., and starts fixing up what he can, so I am neither losing or making money. In the meantime, I can start saving money for bigger projects and repairs, and my son can keep an eye on the house. It will take a few years minimum to finish everything. Recently, Jeremy received a $238,000 inheritance from his maternal grandfather. The first thing he bought was a Porsche. I feel like he can afford rent. All I am doing is subsidizing a rich kid's housing expenses. Plus, my finances are starting to take a hit, and I have 2 other sons from my second marriage. I found out that my son moved in his girlfriend, which I'm not happy about. I talked to my son, and I said between his inheritance, moving in his girlfriend, and my finances, that he needs to start paying rent. He got furious with me and said I was trying to rip him off and backing out of our deal. Then he said that I'd used the money to make the house presentable and sell or rent when I should just give it to him. I said I'm not dropping this, and I'll be back with an offer, but he will pay rent. So he was paying the taxes, utilities, etc. on this place, and fixing what he could. That doesn't sound exactly like he was freeloading to me. If anyone was subsidizing someone else, he was allowing you to keep this building, and possibly even make it more valuable to you. Sure, it's your house, and you can certainly insist he starts paying rent, but you're definitely going back on your original deal. Feel free to cut a new offer or kick him out, but none of that changes the fact that you're the a-hole. You're the a-hole. You allowed him to move in under the expectations that he prevents you from incurring losses in the property. That was the bargain you struck, for better or for worse. You are the a-hole because you no longer want to honor your deal because he experienced some good fortune. You are well within your legal rights to demand he leave the property if you so choose, but you're the a-hole nonetheless. Honor your agreement. So you told him he could live there without paying rent, and once he got some money and you found out about it, now you want a piece? You are dishonoring your offer to him. You do have the right to toss him out. It's your house, but don't pretend you didn't offer him something and then change your mind. You're the a-hole for acting like you aren't just taking it back because you're irritated he got inheritance money and you want it for yourself. He should move out and you should manage fixing up the house. This is obviously not good for the relationship. Mother-in-law is extremely reserved, never shows any emotion, and rarely smiles. She was like this as a child, and it left her parents with major insecurities, as they felt they couldn't make their own kid happy. But literally nothing made her happy. Cold is really the best word for it. A few years ago, mother-in-law met Blake, and they began dating. He can actually make her happy, and I think her parents are a bit jealous. It's honestly very jarring to see her show any emotion, but hey, good for her. Last year, I invited my husband's whole family over for Christmas. My baby was sleeping upstairs. Mother-in-law has always hated Christmas because she doesn't want to give certain people gifts, gets mad when she is given gifts, becomes depressed if she doesn't get any, and claims she feels pushed around into buying gifts for people she doesn't like. Me. Normally, she just glares at her gift and mutters thank you. Well, Blake gave her a gift, and she screamed, like a real scream, loud enough to wake the baby and jumped on him. I don't actually know what it was. Tickets to something, I think. But my baby immediately started crying. I was annoyed and snapped at mother-in-law that she was inconsiderate. Mother-in-law said all I ever care about is my baby, and I'm ruining Christmas. That pissed me off, so I kicked her out. Mother-in-law's parents got mad and said I should have let it go. They've never seen their daughter happy, and it was sweet. I got mad and said their daughter does not come before my infant son. Well, tomorrow is Christmas, and I've decided mother-in-law can't come unless she apologizes for waking the baby and disrespecting me. She is refusing and says she didn't mean to scream, and I'm crazy and overreacting. She is currently not invited, and I'm getting a lot of crap from the rest of the family. Honestly, I don't think I'm backing down. She can apologize or spend tomorrow alone. You're punishing someone for a spontaneous expression of joy at Christmas, and you want applause for that? My friend, you're the a-hole. You had 360-something days to uninvite her, and you decided to do it now? For waking up your baby a year ago, because she was happy for once. You're the a-hole. You're the a-hole. You clearly don't like her, and were looking for a reason to hold something over her, and got your reason, and are using your child as an excuse. Now you're holding on to this very dumb, petty reason a full year later, and holding everyone's Christmas hostage as a result. This is a very weird hill to die on. Let it go, dude. My 45 male, dad, 76 male, recently got married to his now wife, Alicia, 60s. My mom died 4 years ago, and for the first 2 years, he was totally depressed until he met Alicia. After that, he finally seemed to enjoy life again. Alicia is a widow herself, and a very nice woman. They got married in a rather short fashion without much of an engagement. It was just them, but they shared pictures with us, and it was really cute seeing how happy they were. My sister, Allie, 49 female, however, had a much different reaction. She was never comfortable with him moving on from my mom. It seemed unfair to me, but I understood it. However, when our dad got married, more than being mad about him moving on, she made comments about how this will ruin our inheritance. There's no prenup. Where we live, a surviving spouse automatically gets at least 50%. Our father is very well off. Not sure the exact amount, but he definitely has a seven-figure net worth. When my sister was going off about this, she talked about how he'll probably only live a few years anyway, due to him having a couple bouts with cancer, and it likely to come back. But she just kept stressing how much that will hurt our inheritance. I got so mad, and I told her she was acting like a greedy little brat. We both have careers and aren't struggling, so it just felt so money-grubbing to me. She told me I was the a-hole for not having solidarity and celebrating a woman replacing our mom and hurting our kids' futures. I don't really agree that's the case, but my wife said she doesn't necessarily agree, but sees where Ali is coming from. She said I went a little too far and was a jerk for what I said. Am I the a-hole for calling her a greedy brat about it all? Not the a-hole. Holy cow, I would be horrified if my sister said this. Your dad doesn't owe you guys anything, even in death. Not the a-hole in the least. And I must congratulate your parents for rearing a man who has a wonderful understanding that his widowed father is entitled to some happiness in his twilight years, and that no one is entitled to an inheritance until the person who owns the estate in life has actually died. Your sister is a spoiled and greedy brat if she's willing to barter your father's present happiness for what she thinks is her due from his estate. Amazing what the prospect of a juicy inheritance will do to a potential heir's sense of kindness and compassion. You have those traits in abundance. Your sister does not. And you are not a jerk for pointing that out. Not the a-hole. Your sister seems to care very much about the inheritance, and very little about your father's happiness. Ha ha.